Alright, what's up guys? Welcome back to another Unicorn Overlord video. This is going to be kind of an in-depth review of the game. I finished it sometime last week and I'm just now getting to putting all my thoughts together for it, just give you what I think of the game. And first off, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button, really appreciate it. It helps me out. Hit 1,000 subs recently and now we're going to go for 2,000. So with that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at this gem of a game that came out a month or so ago, and it's one of my favorite games that I've played, not just recently, but really of all time. It has a lot of depth to it. The pacing is really good. The art style is just gorgeous to look at. The animations are good. The depth of the game and just how you customize each individual character and sort of how they mesh together in their own unit. The way the battles play out, it's kind of an auto battler, but you have control over, what happens and how you set up your tactics and just the way the active, so there's active abilities and passive abilities. Active abilities occur when it's that character's turn. Passive abilities get triggered by certain circumstances. If you played the game, I'm sure you're aware of that. If you've not played the game yet, it has just so much depth to it. I'll touch more a little bit on like the end game and my thoughts on that a little bit later in the video, where I think there are some areas that it could improve upon. But as an initial release, the game is just fantastic, and playing through it for the first time, leveling up, unlocking the new types of characters, classes, etc. It's just very enjoyable coming across all the new skills and abilities, testing them, just seeing what works, what doesn't. The game is, at least as of now, and when it first released, a full retail price game, $69. And I'd been kind of keeping an eye on this game for a while as I, saw it being released or, promoted. It just, the art style kind of got me interested in it, and the classic sort of JRPG look or feel to it piqued my interest. So I initially thought it was an indie game, and I'm very fond of indie games. So I was kind of keeping an eye on it for its release date, and when I saw it was a full price, $60 or $70 game, I was not sure if I was going to pick it up right away. I thought I might wait for the price to come down since it's a single player game, so it's, not really any added benefit to getting it when it first comes out, other than, if you just really want to play it right then and there. But what they did that was, in my opinion, just fantastic, and a little bit of a stroke of genius, is they released just a very, very large demo, free demo before the game came out, and your progress carried through into the actual release of the game. So to me, that was just genius, because a lot of times you get these demos, your progress doesn't carry over, and that's kind of unfortunate, because then you basically have to replay the same like 5 hours of content, and just not very fun or enjoyable to do that. So with that being said, I downloaded the free demo because it's free, and how can you go wrong there? And I was just hooked on the game within the first 15 minutes, 20 minutes. The game had me pretty much hooked, and I played the demo until I ran out of time on it, and then I enjoyed it so much I went ahead and pre-ordered the game and was counting down the time for it to come out. So definitely, I would highly recommend you checking out this game if you haven't yet already. The pacing in it, we'll talk a little bit about that. So you go through multiple continents, somewhat of like an open, you know, path of progression. You can skip. There's a clearly like a recommended path to go on just based off the levels of the units. But you could potentially, if you are skilled enough at the game, skip to some of the higher level continents right off the bat and clear those first if you wanted to. So there is a bit of open progression in the world map. You can go and take on the final boss, uh, from the get go. You'll be level 10 and they'll be in the level 40s. And I don't know if it's really possible to defeat the boss at that point in the game. It might be. It's going to be very challenging because you kind of unlock some items and mechanics that make the fight, significantly more doable. And without those, I'm not really sure how, you know, easy it would be to overcome the mechanics that are introduced in those final two fights without, I guess you're seeing me here beat the very final fight of the game. So in terms of just pacing, it starts off very very strong. Like you're constantly getting new characters, unlocking new units, and so there's the very beginning of the game was very enjoyable for me. Just figuring out how to mesh all the units together. As you progress to about the third or fourth continent, it slows down significantly. Like when you get to Bastoria and then go to Albion, the rate at which you're getting characters more than halves, possibly even goes down by like 75%. One, I kind of hit on some of like the pros of the game, so we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that I felt like weren't necessarily big downsides or cons to the game, but just areas that I feel like could be improved upon, in the future if they decided to make a sequel to this, which I don't know if Atlas where really makes sequels, but I feel like this and Dragon's Crown, I would love to see sequels to those games, or if they decided to make something, similar to this. Just some things that they could improve on is, continuing to unlock or recruit more characters in the later parts of the game, or spread it out so it's more of like a steady amount that you're getting, versus at the end where it slows down to basically not getting any extra characters. One other area that I feel like they could have done a little better on is you get some interesting choices, or at the start it felt like they were interesting story, critical decisions on whether you want to like execute or imprison characters, or release them, free them, forgive them their crimes. And really, it just turns out, if you forgive them, you basically get to recruit them. If you don't forgive them and you execute them or imprison them, etc., you don't get to recruit them. I think you get maybe some items instead of that, but the the way that worked out is just basically like it didn't really matter what my more morality, or what decision I ultimately made. It was just like, well, do I want to recruit another character, or do I not want to recruit another character for free, more or less? Because every other you know basic mercenary you hire, you have to spend honor points for. And one other area I didn't necessarily feel like was fully fleshed out, or um, you know, it felt like it wasn't really an integral part of the game. Like it could have not been in there and wouldn't have made really a difference in the gameplay. It started to feel almost more of a chore. Was just re upgrading all of the towns and stationing guards in them. Initially, you have so many characters that this was not a problem at all to keep the towns upgraded, or upgrade them all and then station a guard. But as I progressed and got to Bastoria, which is the fourth continent, and then Albion, like I was just basically recruiting all of the cheap low level mercenaries like the Huskarl and the spear character. I can't remember the class name now off the top of my head, but like the Chloes of the game, the girl in the back row there. Because they are only three, they only cost three honors, while other characters cost 5 to 7 or more. And I never really recruited any of the already upgraded characters because they cost 30 to 40 honor. And when you're trying to get all of your units upgraded to having five slots, that costs 200 armor. So that on top of promoting all of your other units, you start running pretty low on honor towards the later part of the game. And I didn't stop and really do any farming. I just continued, progressed through the game, picked up what I felt like I needed. Never ran into really any issues. I never really failed any missions or really lost any fights until the very final fight with Galerius and then Baltro. So, like this one here, this fight, when you first saw me die on the first fight, it was because I didn't. I had to change the tactics on Rosalinda so that she maintained her passive points, because the Ring of Maiden gives her an additional ability that like blocks Baltro's like one shot kill mechanic. So that was the only reason I lost the first fight. One other, area I thought was just a small annoyance was the final Galerius fight. He was like a single unit with 900 plus health, and I had to stop and redo, just trial and error all of my units and redo some tactics to defeat him. Because after each fight he heals like 130 or 140 HP on top of like the normal garrison fight, so you can't just bring him down normally. You have to come up with a specific comp. This is the comp I used more or less to beat him, and it was just mildly annoying. Kind of made me not want to continue. Like there's some additional things you can do in the end game, as far as like recruiting some non-standard characters. Like you can get all of the other Dark Marquis, and I'm not sure who all else, but you can recruit some of the other characters that you don't recruit through on the main story playthrough. You can do some stuff in the Colosseum, like some PvP, and then just continue through the Colosseum. But it just kind of was a small turnoff to me to have to like redo all my units and their tactics, because I had pretty much got all of my units set up with the tactics that I wanted, and having to go through and like redo and save those is not my favorite part of the game. Like once I figure out a unit that all my units had, could 100 and 0 pretty much everything, uh, 90 to 100% of what they fight, they would either 100 0 or like 90 0. So having to redo those and then reset it back up, just wasn't something I was really wanting to mess with again. At this point in time, I would probably revisit this game down the road. It also seems like there's a few things at the end game, like Trinity Rain and like double casting and instant casting charged skills that they're kind of gimmicky, and it seems like it's pretty prevalent, and easy to utilize those to just one shot, in the story missions. And in the Coliseum, there's probably a lot of that. I could see it being countered by the Angel tank armored unit with his like mirror shield ability. But at the same time, if I'm not exactly sure. I think in the Coliseum they do rotate what units are currently allowed to be used, so you do have to use like some decision making in there, from my understanding. But at the same time, if something gimmicky is opened up and then like the counter to it's not available, I could see that being, just kind of an annoyance. But those are really the only areas that, in my opinion, very minor complaints. Just like playing the story through, um, was very enjoyable. I wish it was a little more challenging because, like I said, most of my units, the game I was thinking was going to be much more tactical in terms of, like advanced wars where, you're commanding your units through the stage and you have to be strategic in your offense and defense, and there's a little bit of back and forth. But these stages are all timed. They're on timers, so usually it felt like more of a race against the clock than actually any sort of strategic challenge. And then I never used a hollowed corn ash, so I just had a huge stockpile of that. But if I ever ran out of time on like a difficult mission, I would just pop one of those, and it just kind of seems like that invalidates that timer mechanic entirely. So why even have it in the game? I guess is my opinion. And then the slower defensive units just were so slow that they didn't really seem viable in a lot of the bigger stages. Just having a fast strike team with some heals, and then you can, if the units are near each other, you can rotate them to pick who's actually going to fight the battle. So getting caught out even when you're in rest mode, as long as you were just using your brain and had another unit nearby, you could completely protect that unit. So yeah, I wish it was a little more challenging, but overall, I would give this game a 9 out of 10. I would highly recommend it. There's just so much in it that is done well and done right that it completely outweighs any of my sort of minor, complaints on the game. And those minor complaints, I don't really know if they would have been able to really foresee that. So to get so much right on like a first go around like this is just fantastic job. Well done. Highly recommend this game. You guys picking it up. Next, I'm going to be checking out the game that just came out recently called No Rest for the Wicked. And I played a little bit of it the other day. I need to get my controller out, kind of hook it up. So we will, see how that game is. It had kind of a lot of mixed reviews just on the initial release, and so I'll probably talk about that a little bit next. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I would definitely recommend checking out this game if you haven't. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. And remember to give them the D.